You're watching MS Now special coverage. I'm Ari Melber following the breaking news out of these attacks in the Middle East. The latest major development is that President Trump asserts online in a social media post that Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, is dead. MS Now has not independently confirmed the death. This is a relatively new claim late in the day from the president. We don't have official word from Iran. A potentially historic moment is that any change to that country's leadership, including what President Trump asserts has happened, this death, would be historic. For a bit of background, Ayatollah Khamenei has been the supreme leader. That is the top super authority in that country's system. It is above any other political leaders or presidents who have come and gone. He has been in that role since 1989. Israel says that they struck his compound, and those were the first reports coming out of the Israeli government that they believe him dead. This was all part of a wider and massive surprise operation that started early this morning with the U.S. and Israel in conjunction on that plan. They launched airstrikes on various targets in Iran. They hit multiple sites and cities around the country. We do have much independent verification of this over the hours since it began, including these videos of Tehran and smoke rising, as well as other readouts and reports from the ground. The U.S. Central Command says the targets included command and control facilities, air defense, missile and drone launch sites. Here's some of the most recent footage we've obtained of the attacks. Those videos from U.S. Central Command and the Pentagon, you can see on your screen what has become the regional exchange, because Iran retaliated in several sites in the Middle East: Dubai, Bahrain, Kuwait, Israel, and Qatar. There are no reports yet of U.S. casualties related to those initial responses. The president released this video that explicitly discussed this in the context of war and advocates for regime change in Iran. At a policy level, in terms of the communication we're getting from the United States leadership, that is different and an escalation from past attacks on Iran. The president even telling Iranians who are of the people, separate from, of course, the government leadership, that they should actually, quote, take over the government, and mentioning that the very recent incidents and developments of the United States officials holding nuclear talks had, in President Trump's words, failed. Tonight, we are looking at major questions about this operation. Its efficacy, whether the president's claims are true, and that should be learned over time. Its long-term planning, what comes next, if indeed we've already taken out the leader of Iran, and what the responses will be. Are there unintended consequences for a region that has many, many opponents and enemies of the Iranian regime? This is not a popular government, not among its neighboring states, not among U.S. allies like Israel, not even among European nations, which are very critical of Iran, although also cautious about what the United States is doing as a kind of proactive surprise and largely unilateral attack. That's where we begin tonight, and I want to bring in our first experts of this hour of special coverage. Ambassador Dennis Ross is a Middle East expert. He served as a diplomat and peace negotiator in the Clinton administration and also worked under Presidents Bush and Obama. And General Barry McCaffrey, retired four-star Army general, MS Now military analyst. Let me start with you, General McCaffrey. Your view of these strikes by the U.S. and Israel, based on at least what we publicly know, and the unusual but perhaps accurate claims by the president in announcing that he says Khamenei is dead.
Well, it's a stunning military assault which achieved tactical surprise. More than 500 targets have been hit. The Israelis and the U.S. Air Force have massive superiority over the Iranian defense capacities, which is weakened by the 12-day war 8 months ago. The Iranian regime is fragile. They've murdered more than 7,000 of their own people. They're widely despised. We have apparently succeeded in eliminating a lot of the Iranian senior leadership. The problem, which jumps out at you, is the president did this by decree, by whim, without consultation with Congress, without any attempt to gain the support of the American people, and finally, in the direct contradiction of the views of our allies, not just the European Union, but also the Arab allies in the region, 7 of which have now been struck in Iranian retaliation. So we're embarked on an unknown path. Their key is they're trying to bring down a regime, unlikely to happen unless the Iranian Revolutionary Guard cracks. 150,000 brutal people, and also unlikely to succeed unless we see an uprising among the people, which have been traumatized in the last year. So, tough situation for the United States and the Iranians.
General, what is the understood objective of this operation?
Well, I think the regime change, the Trump team probably thinks is desirable, but probably not likely to happen. I think they think they're going to force them back to the table and get a solid agreement to no nuclear proliferation, which I think is unlikely, primarily because the Iranians have been after this for 30 years and spent billions of dollars on it, and they think it's the key to their survival in the region. You can't stop nuclear arms production unless you have international inspectors on the ground. That's the key. Airstrikes, as devastating as it can be, doesn't kill the nuclear scientists. They get the production means, and those can be reproduced. So without a diplomatic engagement, without the reward of lifting economic sanctions, without the fear of devastating U.S. and Israeli action, it's unlikely they'll achieve the cessation, permanent, of Iran's attempt to get a nuclear weapon. I think the other thing is what we're seeing is at least mouthing the thought that this is a humanitarian goal to free the Iranian people who deserve to be free of this despotic regime, to be blunt.
Ambassador?
Well, look, I agree with much of what General McCaffrey said. I do think that there's a question here on the Iranian side of what their capabilities are to resist. We've seen them retaliate today, but the numbers are dramatically smaller than one might have imagined. Now, is that because they're conserving what they have, because they want to do this over time? Is it a function of an intent, in other words, or is it a capability? Have what the U.S. and the Israelis done, have we attacked them to the point where we have dramatically weakened their ability to carry out offensive operations? I think it's too soon to know that, number one. Number two, on the objective, the president clearly from the beginning has been, how shall I put this, ambiguous. Was this about they can never have a nuclear weapon, or was it about regime change? What he announced last night was, we're going to give the Iranian people a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. So in a sense, he's saying, we're going to make it, we're creating the moment, we're creating the opportunity, all you have to do is rise up. Now that'd be fine, except you have the besieged militia, you have the Revolutionary Guard, and they're all armed. And the fact is, they don't need missiles to be able to suppress their people. We've seen what they can do. You know, the low estimate of how many they killed was 7,100. The higher estimates are what the president said, 32,000. Bear in mind that was done in 3 days. So this was a mass killing on their part. The question is, are there those in the regime who fear that if this war continues, the regime itself will be put at risk?